The enrollment, which had decreased by more than 200 pupils during and after World War II, was rebounding by 1951. It was time to build the addition that would soon be needed. A referendum to issue a bond for $2,225,000 passed on March 1, 1952 by a large majority. In anticipation of large growth and to keep up with new educational developments, a large addition was built, which doubled the size of the school. It included a new gym that could seat 3,500, a little theater, alumni lounge, swimming pool, administrative and student personnel offices, and 20 classrooms. Rooms for science, art, music, home economics, and industrial arts were also updated. The old gym behind the auditorium was split laterally into a cafeteria and a kitchen on the first floor, and a centralized library on the second floor. A cornerstone was laid on Friday, October 28, 1952, in the wall near the new entrance. It contained the names of the building committees, campaign literature, pictures of the program, names of the school council, a Bible, clarion, rouser, and other items of interest. The cornerstone was opened in 2005 in the presence of Beverly Wolf, who had been present at the original ceremony. Graduation ceremonies for the class of 1952 were the most colorful ever. Gray robes had been replaced with RB blue. The school song was also changed at this time. A number of school songs were written by students in the early days. A song that became semi-official was written by band director Louis Newmark.
RBHS, we're in back of you. RBHS, loyal white and blue. For your glory we will strive, ever keep your name alive, as we hasten onward to our goal.
Rah, rah, rah.
RBHS, we are proud of you. RBHS, noble white and blue. With your might we will win the fight. Lead us on to victory.
It was proudly used until 1954 when Harold Collins, the music director, wrote a totally original song using some words about RB first seen in the 1919 Rouser. It declared, "That's the spirit of RB." The new music was adopted immediately and is still the official school fight song. Not everyone was pleased. The students were each given a copy of the words to the new song. At the bottom of the page was the name of the composer. For some time, when it was sung at sporting events, rebellious students shouted the name Harold Collins at the end of the song. In the summer of 1955, Superintendent Haybick, who had served RB for 37 years, retired. He was succeeded by Dr. George W. Brown, who oversaw a steady and rapid increase in enrollment that continued throughout his administration. By 1956, enrollment had increased to 1,427 students, and 2 years later, 4 new classrooms and an office on the second floor and a drafting room near the industrial arts wing were added to accommodate the growth. The class of 1958 was the first class to participate in an outdoor graduation. For the first time, the class would no longer fit on the auditorium stage. Gas replaced oil as the fuel for heating the building in 1960, just 10 years after oil had replaced coal. Blacktop also replaced gravel in the parking lot, and a referendum was passed to increase the size of the building once again. With enrollment at 1,748, construction began in 1961. At the northeast side of the building, a math and science wing was added. The cottage, which had served the home economics department so well, was demolished, and the Crescent Room, a semicircular room with tall windows and a full kitchen, took its place. Above it on the second floor, students gathered before and after school in the new commons. On the lower level, an indoor track was added, and students no longer needed to practice running in the hallways. Foreign language labs were added to allow students to practice using the latest technology, and the teachers ate in the new, more comfortable cafeteria. The new math and science wing enclosed a new courtyard, and the class of 1960 donated a reflecting pool and fountain to decorate it. The art classroom area was also refurbished and expanded at this time. The following year, the industrial arts area was reconfigured. The print shop, which had produced years of the Clarion and printed many wonderful posters promoting athletic events at RB, was deactivated. Enrollment remained high throughout the early 60s. In 1963, it reached 1,929 and held steady at or near the level until 1974. The educational tax rate had not been raised after 1956, and in order to attract well-qualified teachers and maintain the high quality of instruction, the Board of Education realized that it would have to try to pass another referendum. It failed to pass in November of 1962 and again on February of 1963. Dr. Brown resigned as superintendent in the spring of 1963. When school resumed in the fall, an interim committee consisting of Mr. Hayworth, Director of Instruction, Mr. Johnson, Business Manager, and Miss Michael, Director of Pupil Personnel, was in charge. On January 12th of 1964, Dr. Stuart A. Anderson was chosen to head RB. On the third attempt on January 25th, 1964, the referendum finally passed. A building fund referendum asking for $1,750,000 to add new classrooms and repair the existing building was held in December 4th, 1965, and it failed by a narrow margin. A citizens committee was formed to assist the Board of Education to formulate another proposal that voters would pass. Less than a year later, in November of 1966, following a concerted public relations program that succeeded in communicating to the voters of the need for more money, it passed. The Board of Education realized that with all the planned expansion and the large amount of work needed to administer the growing school, a new position should be added to the administration. In September of 1967, Mr. LaRue Thompson was appointed principal. An RB alumnus, he had joined the teaching staff in 1937 and served as a social studies teacher, tennis coach, and dean of boys. Data processing came to RB with an IBM punch card system in 1964. Beverly Wolf, who was helping to compile student data, attendance data, and schedule classes at the same time, talks about the introduction of the system.
Well, we had to go down to IBM. We were converting to machinery and data processing and IBM cards. So our first scheduling in 1964 for the 64-65 school year, we went downtown to IBM, took all our equipment, the cards down there, ran them through. It took several hours. Came back, and we discovered some kids had 3 lunch hours and 2 English classes and so on. So we were here, a bunch of us, even one of the counselors' mothers came to help us. My sister was here, and we were here till 3 o'clock on the morning of opening of school that fall, that September, was first week in September, I think. And the superintendent at that time said that was the smoothest school opening we ever had. We were knee-deep in carbon paper. We had to reprint all those. We had the printer, the printing machine here, but we had to reprint all those schedules, fix them, and then reprint them. That was fun. 3 o'clock in the morning, I was out in the parking lot going home.
Data processing was moved to a larger location in 1969 to accommodate all the equipment needed for the IBM punch card system. By this time, many high school districts were becoming affiliated with junior colleges. The affiliation gave high school graduates an additional option to continue their education at a reasonable cost, as part of the tuition was charged back to the high school district. A citizens committee was formed to investigate the choices and recommended affiliation with Morton College. It was brought to the voters of District 208 who rejected it. The Citizens Committee then worked on other ideas, and finally on January 12, 1972, voters approved affiliation with Triton College in Northlake. Construction on the largest addition to Riverside Brookfield High School ever built was begun in 1969. Additions to the old school included a modern library, a student cafeteria and kitchen, a communication center, audio-visual room, in the old library location, a driver education facility, including simulator room, a small gymnasium, a gymnastic room with soft floor, an additional room in the industrial arts area, math and science rooms in the expanded north side of the building. It was a big building project, and the voters in the RB communities hoped that the amount approved would give the school enough to live on for a while. The 50-year-old school district was doing its job. Graduating students went on to study at the best colleges in the country, or went on to good jobs in commerce and industry. But some of the most challenging years were just around the corner. How District 208 met those challenges and overcame the difficulties of increasing expense and decreasing enrollment is another great story for another day. Listen once more to the school's song, this time performed in 1958 at a basketball game. Listen carefully to the end, where you'll hear the students shout Harold Collins.